Good evening. You're watching the Cheese Room podcast with me, the caller, live from the Man Cave. It's a great evening to be a Spurs fan. I think we're still in the top four race, which is something to be happy about, but not helped at all by that absolute shambles at Brentford. Tonight we'll be discussing that. We'll be discussing transfers and the top four race in the Cheese Room. But I'm joined by some illustrious guests and HG. So let's go around the room. First of all, Becky, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Glad to be here.
Didn't go to this one then?
No, I didn't. No.
Lucky you. I think whatever you were doing, it was probably more worthwhile than the 90 minutes watching paint dry that the rest of us.
I watched it in the pub in Merseyside with the volume down, weirdly, but that means I didn't have to hear Alan Smith. So.
Oh, well, that's always a blessing. Yeah, always a blessing. HG, tell us how you watched the game.
It's really exciting. I went to a wedding, so I didn't watch it live. I came home having avoided my phone for like 4 or 5 hours and got my wife to fire it up on some dodgy website, and she didn't tell me anything. She knew the score, obviously. And I sat and watched it. I should have just asked her, like, are there any goals? Because if there aren't, I'm not watching. If she says yes, that's still enough. I could watch it and then hope, that it's going to be Spurs. But at 0-0, yeah, what's the point? So that's how I watched it. I did watch it in full. For some reason, I always thought something might happen because Spurs have done that quite a bit this season. Maybe we'll score, towards the end again, but it wasn't to be.
With it either score or concede near the end.
No, I didn't think that was going to happen. I have to say, I did think, it's going to be one for Spurs. If only because I told people on Twitter that I thought that's what was going to happen. It would be a narrow 1-0 late win for us. So it was more hope than expectation. But having been, fortunate to get it right last week.
When you say fortunate, you do make quite a thing out of being right all the time, right?
No. Actually, you bring it up more than I do. I just revel in it, but because it happens quite a bit. But
it's interesting that point comes up because I was just watching a little bit, like 5 minutes of Piers Morgan on his new TV channel, which is terrible, by the way. Don't watch it; it's awful. But what the bit that I did catch was he said, "I've got like a 95% record of always being right," and I instantly thought of you. Funnily enough, so there you go.
Yeah, because I have and he hasn't. Yeah, I get it. It makes sense. Yeah.
Brilliant. And making her Cheese Room debut is Brooke. How are you, Brooke?
Yeah, good. Can't complain. Well, I could. About Spurs.
Tell us how you came to support the mighty Tottenham Hotspur.
I know. So I just came here on holiday in 2010, and my partner's a lifelong fan. His dad is a lifelong fan. And my first game was at home to Stoke in 2010-2011 season. Yeah, Crouchy with a brace, Modric. And that was when I was introduced how much you can swear in a sports at a sports event.
I mean, to be fair, Tottenham do give you more reason to swear than most of the teams.
I'm converted to swearing. I am. Like, I scare my dogs when I'm watching Spurs.
It's a perfectly normal part of UK life is a good swear. It has to be involved in every sentence, surely.
I agree.
I heard once it's a sign of intelligence.
I'll take it.
Swear lots. So that's what I said. I'll take that and I'll run with it. I've been running and blagging it ever since. And how did you find out about the Cheese Room, Brooke?
Well, the pandemic, I've been working from home for what seems like the rest of my life, my whole life. And I keep something on all the time. And I always watch the Cheese Room, always. And I listen to the podcast. And my partner may or may not be a Patreon member.
We definitely did not pay you to say that, right?
No. I'm a fan of the Cheese Room.
Yeah, Brooke, you just needed some background noise, really. I mean, it's okay. It's like, that's what we are, but...
Well, but to be fair, like when I started watching Spurs, my office started doing well, they didn't start. They wrote me into doing the fantasy football, and then all hell broke loose with my obsession. And so yeah, I have to hear everything.
Nice.
Very good. Well, there you go. That's good. That's probably more pleasant than talking about the match that we're going to have to cover now. 0-0 starting lineup. Obviously, Reggie was dropped. Set in the starting lineup. What were your thoughts on that when you saw it, Becky?
Well, we talked last week, didn't we, about whether he was going to mix it up. So he did. Apparently, Reguilon had a groin injury, I think, or he's playing with a slight one. So yeah, it was Sess's opportunity. Did he take it? I don't know if he did. But yeah, apart from that, the rest of it was expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. HG,
very soft bench. Not much depth in the bench, unfortunately.
No, there's not much depth in a bench. I'll be honest. There's more depth in one of those blow-up hot tubs that you see in all the stores at this time of year. HG, what are your thoughts on this 11? Can we blame the kit at all? Because it is pretty ghastly, isn't it?
When I saw that we were playing in that, I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. I do expect us to fail miserably. Wasn't the Mura game away in that kit too? I don't like that black kit that everyone seems to love that looks like, my child's paint pot. We never play in it, or so rarely compared to the other one. It seems a bit odd, but
we haven't lost in it either. We haven't lost in it. Yeah. No.
Didn't we play City in that? Didn't we play City in that? I think we did.
I think we
I distinctly remember
the away game.
We were in white. I think we were in white both those games, but
yeah, but they haven't lost in it.
Yeah, no, I do. I see that green and purple kit, and it's horrific on so many levels. Yeah, but you look at the bench. I mean, you talk about it not being, particularly strong in depth. I think there were 7 full internationals on that. It's only really the 2 kids that aren't. So yes, we had options, although not great ones, because defenders is not what we need when it's 0-0. So that's the biggest issue. But is it the best possible use of the resources? I don't think so. But I've said that for a while now. I don't think so. But we all knew it was going to happen. Cess or Reg is kind of a toss-up. You pretty much know what you're going to get, and it's not good enough, regardless of who it is. But there's always hope, because when you go out and beat teams, 4-0, 5-0 that we've done, you think, okay, all we need is one. Get that early goal against Villa like we did, and then suddenly the game becomes a little bit easier to manage. Yeah. But if you don't, then we struggle, and that's kind of how it's been pretty much since Conte took over a little bit. If we don't get a goal, it looks like we're probably not going to get one. So it's I don't know. When I saw the lineup, I wasn't thrilled or dismayed. I was a bit disappointed that it was still quite defensive in the wing back area, but that's clearly what Conte thinks is best.
It's true. It's a good takeaway from HG there that we do struggle where we don't score the early goal, don't we? I mean, all the games where we've knocked teams over and scored lots of goals, Brooke, we've got an early goal. What do you do if you don't? It's difficult, isn't it?
Yes, but I think that also kind of shows who we're playing against and how they set up. It's not a secret that we do well against that we don't do well against teams who just put 10 behind the ball and sit there.
Yeah, make life difficult. Becky, who provides the spark in our system now? Now, dare I say it, Doherty's injured. There's no one getting into that final third and causing mischief from the wing backs. So where does the chance creation come from?
Well, the thing is, isn't it? And Bentancur struggled the last 2 games as well. And Kane was marked a lot on Saturday, which meant that he couldn't then drop deep. And by again having that situation, as Brooke says, I think we look too easy to play against, and teams have worked us out. That's what seems to be happening.
I said on Twitter a couple of days ago that I've said this for a while on here. I think Lucas should be our right wing back. I think he's the best person for that job. And someone said to me, "Why would you say that? Because he can't cross the ball and his decision making isn't great." And you know what? That's a fair cop. I think that's probably true of Lucas. But the difference is he runs at people. Doherty, despite not being the fastest, is willing to make runs beyond the line in front of him. Emerson doesn't do it, right? And that's the big thing. So, like, if I'm defending against a team that don't want to run off my shoulder, super. Just play in front of me. Easy. And that's it with Spurs. Like, if Sessegnon's not making the run, I feel like maybe it was the first half, certainly during the game against Brentford, the only person I really saw making runs beyond where they should have been was Davies. There were a couple of times where we kind of worked the ball and, a better touch and he'd have been through. So that to me is the frustrating part. Like, if the system is based on movement and we haven't had any for 2 games, well, it's no surprise that our opponents have found it quite easy to play against us. But we have to do something. We have to be more attacking down in wide areas. And like Sessegnon might be a better attacker going forward than Reguilon, but Reguilon is more willing to make those runs than Sess is. So I'd rather have someone willing to make the run than someone who's just there to basically play at the side of the pitch. We've got to do better.
Brooke, why do you think that Sessegnon did get the nod over Reggie? Because as HG says, I mean, Reggie's popped up with a couple of goals this season. He does get into the final third. He possesses a little bit more wing-back attacking threat, it would seem. But Sessegnon has seemed throughout, as the season's gone on, to be the preferred choice at left wing-back for Conte. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, I've noticed that Conte seems to prefer Sess, but honestly, I think with Reggie, he does make poor decisions in that final third. It's like when he gets the ball in the box and he just looks a bit lost. I know he has had a couple of goals, but I don't have a lot of confidence in him when he gets the ball in there.
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't have a great deal of confidence in any of the wing backs. I wouldn't have a great deal of confidence in Lucas if he got through. But the point is, you've got to make those runs. You've got to make the defense think that you're going to be capable of doing something. Like, it's not as if we're asking Sissoko to run through on goal at Anfield and the defenders just like, oh yeah, have a shot, mate. We don't care. Like, Lucas is capable of doing those things. Doherty is capable of scoring and being on the end of stuff. But we've got to make those runs. Otherwise, like, Kulusevski's played terribly, it seems, for the last 2 games. But he's had no one running, no one making those moves. And I mean, obviously, Doherty was on the other side for the Villa game. So you just think you need to have something like Son, as we've talked about before when things weren't going well for Spurs. He doesn't like playing with his back to goal. And a lot of the times now he has to do that. Because, again, the defenders aren't worried about anyone making those runs over the top. Bentancur won't do it. Højbjerg does it, well, maybe once a game. But even that, the counter-attack has already started when he does it. Like, we have to be slightly braver. We talk about, we've got the 3 centre-backs who are all very comfortable on the ball and are quite happy to basically keep it amongst themselves. But Brentford are quite happy to have them keep it amongst themselves. No one is moving forward. And so you get a 5-yard pass, a 10-yard pass to one of the midfielders ahead of them. And, well, then what? I mean, they've got nowhere to go with it. They have to go straight back. So it is, I mean, I would feel comfortable playing against them right now, Spurs. I'd be comfortable playing against Kane. You just have to stand by him and make it so that he can't get the ball that easily. That's it. If we can't get the ball to the front 3, we have nothing. And so it's, we have to be more mobile. We have to run in wide areas. We have to run past defenders. And yet we might get caught out once or twice. But when you've got 3 centre halves who don't really cross the halfway line that much, you should have enough to deal with whatever is coming against you.
We just miss this man, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
We miss someone who knows what they're doing and knows when to attack. And Doherty does. He always has. So, yeah.
50 people watching already. Please do hit the like button. Show us some love. And the word will spread far and wide that the Cheese Room is live. So do please hit that like button. Getting back to the game, 3 successive corners from Eriksen to the far post to Ivan Toney. Becky, why don't we ever learn?
It was zonal as well. So they're playing zonal, and they were wonderful. If Eriksen was playing for us and he was in there, I'd be delighted. They had this lovely curve on them because they were coming from the corner that we were facing the camera, and they kind of curved each one. They were like identical, but each time no one seemed to realise And he got a shot on each time, when they were block shots or that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's almost like we're a bit in this sort of drilled way that we then can't be flexible and change it. And someone had the sense to go, oh, that person's there, I'll go over there. And it's almost like they're a bit rigid in that. And I don't know whether that's come from training or. But yeah, it was like one after the other. They were identical corners, and could easily have scored any of them.
Talking of Eriksen, he got an exceptional. The Spurs fans applauded him in the corner, and obviously sharing a few hugs with the players throughout the game. Brilliant reception for him, wasn't it, Brooke?
It was. I got a little emotional. It's nice to see him back on a pitch. It's nice to see him coming over to the Spurs fans. I loved hearing the song. It was all very heartwarming.
I think we got that on YouTube, actually. Captured it. Couple of people at the game. Old Mr. Diver took John Boy down to the game, mixing it up with the Tunnel Club crew. And that's on YouTube, so check it out. And obviously, he went over to that kid at the full-time whistle, gave and signed for him, which was a lovely thing to see.
Yeah, it was great. That was one of the best things about the whole game. But Eriksen seemed genuinely, pleased by the action that he got. He clapped the Brentford fans, but he did go over to the Spurs fans. He obviously went around almost every single player. He did it in the tunnel beforehand, but he was also the best player on the pitch by some distance.
He wants to come back.
He was.
Like Brooke was saying, the way he plays, it's great to see him, but to see him play to such a high standard as well is just fantastic, and it's lovely to see.
He pinged a couple of those beautiful balls over that just completely pierced the centre back's line and straight through, looking for Tony and whatnot. But you just miss a player like that in our team, don't you? Just miss it.
I can't help but wonder how many of the travelling Spurs fans spent the last year of Eriksen's career at Spurs thinking he was a waste of space and he didn't care and he wasn't trying. And now suddenly, maybe they haven't seen the error of their ways, but they're just like, cynic. Oh, come on. I mean, he did get a whole load of crap for that last year.
He did. But I think he would still be welcome back.
No, of course he's welcome back. He's welcome back because we need him. Not because we love him. I think that's part of it.
Sorry, HG. What I mean was, if he was playing for Inter, didn't have a heart attack, any of that, if he come back to play against Spurs, I think he'd still get a fantastic reception because he was one of those players that had the era with us where we were really good. And he was
maybe I spend too much time on Twitter, all right?
Defo.
It does appear that I hope that the ratio of Eriksen haters over the last couple of years is lower outside of Twitter than it seems to be on Twitter. But it does make you wonder. The guy was with us 6.5 seasons. Even if it were true that he stopped playing for the last year, which I don't think is true, but even if it were true, 5.5 years, it's crazy to think that people even think of Eriksen as being something else than a wonderful player for Spurs. The fact that he wanted to go and try somewhere else, to me, was never an issue because he was open to the club about it. The fact that the club took their time in selling him,
I think that's the only bad feeling that he had. He never had it at the fans. He never had it at the players. It was more about the board and how that. And you could see that in the documentary, couldn't you? That he, like you said, he was very upfront about it. He was very honest about it. They just took a long time, didn't they? And it didn't.
Yeah. Oh, lost you, Becky. I think she'll come back. Dave Harris is having a few pops, HG, in the chat.
Yeah, I did see one. Where was it? This one here. Where was he in the CL final? Spurs had most of the ball in that final. I don't, it's weird. Like Liverpool were very, very defensive after that early goal and were quite happy to give it to Spurs. So we had the ball and he was there. But obviously, Davo, being the negative man that he is, only wants to remember the negative things. That's just his MO. So, sorry, Dave. Yeah, Spurs fans are specialists in sentimentality, says the guy who wishes it was still 1985.
He does. He literally does. He wishes it was the 80s or the early 90s when Oasis were big. That's like when he's so sentimental, it's untrue. he stopped playing because he wanted to go. Yeah, look, the end
Don't,
of the
don't,
day,
don't you remember? Don't you remember the 80s when Spurs were a business and like the first team to have like sponsors on their shirts and this first team to do all these things that he hates Levy for?
PLC.
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, Davo, we love you, but
We were floated on the
you're
stock
very
exchange.
predictable.
First team to do it, I think, or one of the first teams to do it. You're right, Becky. You got some gremlins.
Yeah, the internet just decided to drop out and then come back. Okay.
Don't worry, it happens to the best of us, as well as the worst. Harry, I thought Kane, what's happened to him, Brooke? Last couple of games, didn't really hold the ball up much at all. Didn't drop deep and make a difference in midfield where you'd want to see him. What's going on with Mr. Kane?
Well, I think, we talked about it in the beginning. We've been figured out. You peck in those spaces where he usually drops to. You defend. You don't give him any space, and he can't find Son. Yeah, and if you don't have wing backs that you can depend on, it really doesn't do us any favors. So, bless him.
Bless him indeed. And Ivan Toney rattled the bar with a header, didn't he, Becky? Were you thinking, oh Christ, if we go behind, we've got no chance of scoring?
Was that the save that Luis sort of pushed it onto the bar and then landed awkwardly, didn't he? Yeah. Toney was, he's Eriksen's putting them on a plate for him, so it's working out really well for Toney. They brought a catching up, didn't they? I think in the second half that he had since January, the goals and assists, and Toney was on there as well. So yeah, it works really well. Brentford are a nice side to watch. They just worked us out, and they had a game plan, and their game plan worked. Our game plan didn't work, but then we didn't change it. Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about the subs later on.
We will, or yes, exactly. Spurs' best effort was Bentancur firing miles wide from distance. I think it was as good as it got, nearly all half. It was Harry's scissor kick, but I'd gone home by then, so obviously missed that. But we didn't register a shot on target again. HG, what's going on?
Well, I mean, we had shots blocked that would have been on target. Do they count? Have we got to that point?
No.
What's going on? We've talked about it. You can't get the ball to Kane, so he can't be an influence. We're not creating any space for players, and so there's no space for Kane or Son to do any damage. On the odd occasion that it happens, it tended to be when Brentford broke down while they were attacking, and then we had some space to go for. But yeah, the issue is, as we've said, the Brighton game was the same. We're outnumbered in midfield. Kulusevski does like to go wide, which I have no issue with, but it means that he's not involved in the middle of the pitch to try and win the ball back. Son, you don't really want in the middle of the pitch because he doesn't have the skill that Lucas has to just go past someone just by running for 5 yards, right? Because he's that much faster. So we kind of we want to leave the space out wide, but we can't get the ball in those areas because we're outnumbered in the middle. So it means that, to me, one of the centre backs has to go forward and become part of that midfield. And the obvious choice for me would then be Dyer, because he's played defensive midfield before. You could have Dyer. I mean, I don't like this idea of a midfield, but if this is how the game is going, you ask Dyer to sit, and so you have him 5-10 yards ahead of Romero and Davies, and then Højbjerg has less responsibility, so he can move around the pitch and try and get involved, fire up the pitch. Same with Bentancur, whose passing range isn't bad, right? But you need to move anyone that's more defensive for Spurs 10 yards further up the pitch. That's what you need to do. When Spurs look half decent, it's when we kind of play like Liverpool, where we win the ball quickly and all of our players are in the opposition half. Then we can do something. But if you've got 3 centre-backs that don't cross the halfway line and 2 central midfielders that don't like crossing the halfway line and want to come back to get the ball, it's no wonder that the front 3 don't have a chance, because they're massively outnumbered with the defenders and the opponent's midfield. We do have to do something different. It's weird to think that, if you're looking at the left-hand side, Ben Davies is more comfortable going forward with the ball than Sessegnon is.
Yep.
Right. And there's maybe it's confidence, I don't know, but I don't think he's a better footballer technically.
It's
than
not talent, is it? Let's face it. We know he could do it. It's just you were right. It's confidence, totally confidence.
You've got to make those runs, and if Sessegnon makes the run and gets caught out of position, you would hope that Davies is comfortable to go over there and stuff it, and Dyer would move across, and Romero, like that's the whole point of the system, is that if the wing backs get caught out, you're still okay. Liverpool do exactly the same with their fullbacks. They bomb them forward, but if there's a chance to counter-attack down their side, then you've got Fabinho, you've got Henderson, you've got Keita, mobile midfielders, plus Van Dijk, who can go across anyway, that the danger is usually snuffed out. I don't understand why we seem so reticent to be a bit brave, because, Brentford are decent going forward, but it's not as if they were filled with attacking players either. Like, Rigo Henry is a decent fullback and a decent wing-back, but nothing special. I couldn't even tell you who played right wing-back anymore. One of the Danish guys for them, possibly. So it's just, we have to realise that if we want to go and win the game, we have to go and win it. It's not just going to happen.
This is where I think my frustration, I put on Twitter straight after the match, Conte's negligent, because there's no plan B, is there? I mean, the substitutes, what are we doing? 74th minute, Davinson Sanchez comes on for Sessegnon, moving Davis goes to left wing back. And then the 86th minute, Lucas comes on for Emerson. I mean, 86th minute. It's a must-win game, and he's messing around using the same system that's not worked for, 2 games, on the bounce, on the spin. Got done by Brighton exactly the same. You could have seen Brentford doing exactly the same. Ridiculous. What is going on? I mean, Conte, don't get me wrong, world-class manager. He's proven that everywhere he's been. But he hasn't got the players to play that system. So why is he persisting with the system? Change the system, for God's sake. Put an extra man in midfield. Drop 4 in defence, Well, I just don't understand it. It's very frustrating, Brooke. Do you feel like that?
Yes. Yeah, it's insanely frustrating to watch 2 games in a row where, even I can see what the issue is, and to not see any changes at all, or to see substitutions that are, you're just kind of scratching your head, or maybe you can understand why, but there were other changes that he could have made to affect change. And I don't know, maybe it's world-class managers who say, this is the way I play, and deal with this. This is the team conforms to me. The team conforms to me. And hey, Levy, this is how I'm going to play. Give me some players that can play like that.
Which is fine. I mean, I don't think there's a Spurs fan anywhere on Twitter or in the stadium or anywhere else that doesn't think that he needs some new players. Quite clearly, if you're going to play that system, we've got some gaping holes to fill. But we can't do anything about that right now. He's got to make the most of what he's got, hasn't he, Becky?
Yeah, well, also, when we played Liverpool, we had injuries and he played a different formation. I think it was 3-5-2, wasn't it? And we had some of the best chances that we've had all season. And then similar at Leicester. And then, obviously, Leicester was a last-minute thing. But they're the matches that people can remember where we played a different formation and it worked quite well. So I agree with Brooke to the sense that I think they are quite stubborn. And this is what we're going to do, and I get that. But like you said, we haven't got the players for that, so we need to have a plan B, and the plan B could be to change the formation.
I'm going to make myself very unpopular here. Quelle surprise! The best manager in world football played a game yesterday, and it was 0-0, and they weren't playing very well, and he needed a win because he's going for the title. So what does he do? He goes 4-2-4. What? Are you crazy? And within 3 minutes they get the goal. Like, it's nothing to do with the fact that he made that change. I will say that. The goal had really little to do with the fact he made the change. However, he made that change, got the goal, and then reverted, and then changed things back to how they would usually be. It's not difficult. Like, we go 2-0 down against Wolves with 20 minutes, and he changes it. Right? At half-time, someone goes off, or even before half-time, I think Stets went off in that game. He changed it, and we went 4 at the back because we needed goals. I don't understand the difference. Like, as awful as it sounds, like last week, had we conceded that late goal against Brighton, but had gone for it for the 20, 30 minutes beforehand, I'd be upset, but at least we tried to go and do something different. We haven't done it for 2 games now. This idea that something that clearly the opposition can deal with easily is going to be enough somehow. Like, I mean, that we've had a number of games this season. I think the Brighton away one, where the first goal, Kulusevski shot, and it hit Romero and kind of trickled in. Like, Yeah, that's great, and it made it a much easier game for Spurs after that. But it's not as if we did that through choice. I mean, it was fortune. We have to realise that if we want to go out and win games, we have to go out and do it. We can't rely on Son to ping one in from 25 yards within 3 minutes that goes in off the post. It just doesn't happen that way, and it feels like that's kind of what we're expecting now. And we do. Like, the best managers will change things up. I don't care that Conte's preferred system is 3-4-3. He can play that next year too, and maybe we'll reap the benefits. But when it comes to the last 20 minutes of game where you need 3 points to stay in fourth, you do what you need to do. And as much as a lot of people don't rate Mora and they don't think much of Bergwijn, Bergwijn's in form about as much as he's ever been for Spurs. He's scoring goals for Holland.
Can I just say,
and yet he doesn't even come on.
Haven't got a clue. Not why on earth? What's Bergwijn done? Been like with Conte's wife or something? Just I don't understand.
I think there's this idea. Sorry.
Go on.
I think possibly in training. I mean, maybe he's not showing it in training. Because we said that Doherty wasn't playing, worked hard in training, won his place back, and then sadly lost it again through injury.
Yeah.
Maybe it's behind the scenes.
No, go ahead.
It appears
agree.
to me
I
that
think...
this. Go on, Brooke.
Sorry. I agree. I think I was listening to an interview with Christian Eriksen back a while ago, and about his troubles that he had at Inter with him, and he just kind of said he was used to being kind of free and able to go around the pitch as he pleases, and Conte kind of benched him and said, no, you'll play in my system. And he kind of said as soon as he started to conform to what Conte wanted, his way of playing, what he saw Eriksen being, then he got game time on the pitch. And I think it gives kind of an insight into how his mind works and what may be going on with some of these players. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, it was a last-minute decision to keep Bergwijn, wasn't it, HG, in January? It was only that Leicester game that changed it.
We've got basically 5. I mean, obviously, Kane is world-class, but let's say we've got 5 attackers that I think Conte probably trusts all of them. He may not play them all, but I do think he trusts them all to do what he wants. But the issue is that when 2 are world-class, and that's what people would say about Kane and Son, then what do? You take off Kulusevski, and then you bring on the 4th guy, and then to get the 5th guy on, you've got to take off the 4th guy because the other 2 are untouchable. Like, we've played 4-4-2 at times, and maybe Lucas has been on the right and Son's been on the left, and then you've got Kane and Son up top and Bergwijn on the left. I think Bergwijn has been up top with Kane when we have done 4-4-2, but we've got to do that. Like, even if it is only for 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game, if you're worried, but you've got to change it completely, right? If the wing backs aren't going forward, fine, right? Then put Davies at left back, put Royal at right back, and go like that. It would work. Di Romero would be a perfectly good centre-half partnership. It's not as if you're changing the team completely to do it, but it does mean not playing 3 at the back, which seems to be what Conte really doesn't want to get away from. I mean, bringing on Sanchez, it was Sanchez didn't play badly, but it's a weird choice. You're not going to get anything different, really. Like, you might get more thrust because Davies is now being asked to be the wing back, but you're getting less because Sanchez won't go as forward as much as Davies did. It is mind-boggling. I do think the best managers are ones that can make changes during games and maybe change systems. And Tuchel has done it for Chelsea. Klopp does it for Liverpool. Guardiola, to be fair, doesn't do it much. But then when you can go out and spend 60 million on reserves, maybe that's not so much of an issue for you. But for everyone else, you have to be able to do it. And it's a shame that Conte hasn't shown that yet. He really hasn't.
We spent. Do you know how much money we spent, Brooke, on our 4 wing backs?
90 million.
90 million. You definitely read the run sheet. 90 million quid.
I do that.
It's a bit shocking, really, isn't it? Given we've got no one who can play wing back, Becky, amongst all that.
Well, also I think that they bought them before Conte, didn't they? So they bought them. We said this before. We bought Royal as a kind of a right back and Reguilon as a left back, and they then had to change a formation, and they're struggling with that. I think it's
true.
It's a shame that Royal has affected Kulusevski's performance because, he did play so much better when he had Doherty behind him, and now he hasn't, and he's got Royal behind him. It's affected him as well. It's a shame.
Big time.
Certainly does seem to. But the one thing I would say is I think we've got a little bit of a mixed up recruitment system going on because we signed Doherty for getting on for 20 million quid, wasn't it? I think, was it 18 million or something? When Mourinho was the manager and he doesn't play wing backs. Sessegnon was when Poch was the manager and he didn't really play wing backs either. So we've got a right old mixture of players who really don't fit, and I think that's going to be a real big problem. Go on, Hishi.
Like you could say, you could say that they were bought at the time for the right reasons, right? Because we all know before we bought Doherty, Jose was playing Aurier as basically a pseudo winger. That would have suited Doherty to be higher up the pitch, and then we went and bought Reguilon, and Jose changed his mind. When Nuno was here, we bought Royal. Doesn't really fit whatever Nuno was trying to do at all because he still wanted width from the fullback. So that was a dodgy one. But Poch bought him at a time when Poch's system involved putting both fullbacks really. That's why Trippier was always caught out and he didn't have the pace to get back because his starting position was actually on the halfway line, if not further up. So there's some logic to why we bought the players we did at the time we did, but most of them, let's be honest, have been pretty bad. Now, you can blame it on the system, you can blame it on the changes of managers, all of that will play a role, but at some point, I don't look at Sessegnon and think, oh, he's in the wrong position. Because I thought that at fullback when he played there, I thought that as a winger when he played there, and at wingback he doesn't seem... So at some point you're like, well, if he doesn't look good in anything, maybe it's him rather than the system. And you can do that after a while. A lot of people think that Royal is better as a defensive fullback in a flat back four. I think Royal would be perfect for a team like Burnley, but I don't want Spurs to play that way.
There's a lot of hate for Royal again on social streams. He's getting absolute pelters.
Oh, bless him. He's had such a hard time. He got to Barcelona and they were like, goodbye, see you. And now he got stuck with brought him here. Don't play in the system that suits him.
But this is a fair point from Craig Harlow. Played on the right versus Newcastle and Villa. So he's not, completely useless, HG? What are you saying?
I don't think Royal is completely useless, but I don't think he's good enough for whatever I want Spurs to do. Right? Like, if I want a defensive right back, I would hope that the club could produce that themselves. Right? Like, Walker Peters obviously is not that, but he could have been. Right? Tanganga could be that, exactly. So I just feel it was like if Nuno wanted to play, going back to what Nuno did, he had a narrow middle three in midfield, and he had a narrow front three. All the width had to come from the fullbacks. That's never been Emerson's game. So that to me is the biggest mistake we made, really, is because he will never really do what our squad is suited for. And a manager, when they come in, should look at that squad. We all did it when Nuno came and thought, we've got a squad for the 3-5-2 that Nuno likes to play. And Doherty used to do it for him, so he would understand what to do. And then Nuno went with a flat back four. That's the bit that confuses me, because I can understand, maybe you want to play a certain way. I'll be honest, in Pochettino's first season, I gave him pelters quite a lot because I didn't know why he was continually sticking with Bentaleb and Mason when I thought that Dembele was a better player and was on the bench a lot. But he did, and it worked out because the system was the key, and they needed to. Bentaleb and Mason were jettisoned quite quickly, but once he found players that could do it, he had brought Dyer in to be the defensive midfielder. Dembele started playing more often in midfield, and suddenly it worked. The system had been taught. But when you come into a club as a manager, like the idea that you should expect to be given maybe the 8 months, 9 months that you'd need to get your players to play the way you want. It doesn't happen, especially at a club like Spurs. You can't, none of us really want to see Spurs have a transitional season. This season is probably it, and yet here we are fighting for fourth because United are having another transitional season, and Arsenal would have been, right? It's just, it's really difficult for me to sit here and watch managers make decisions that, let's be honest, most Spurs fans can figure out. So it doesn't make any sense. And I would like the person in charge I would like to think the person in charge is smarter than me. And that happens quite a lot in life. But why can't it happen at Spurs?
I think he probably is smarter than you, but there's a lot we
No,
don't know.
no. He knows more than I will ever know. I get that. But again, in-game management is a massive part of it. Like he can train a team far better than I can. I understand that. But when it comes to making substitutions, we all sit here and discuss it. We all sit here and say, well, what was the point of bringing on Lucas with 4 minutes to go? That's not education. That's just watching football. That's not the UEFA Pro license. There's no test like, if it's 0-0 and you need 3 points, do you A, do nothing? Do you B,
you put on Sanchez?
Yeah. So it's frustrating. It really is.
Yeah. No, I agree. Conte spoke in his press conference after the game saying they'd spent time in training this week against 10 men behind the ball. Clearly not enough time. Becky, no sign of getting any better.
No, and also when he was asked about why he brought Sanchez on, he said he did it because he thought he'd be better from set pieces. So there is supposed to be some thought behind him bringing Sanchez on. It just sounds like everything that he won't turn around and say I got it wrong. That's the trouble. So he's coming out with these slightly odd.
Oh no, he won't do that.
Explanations.
He won't ever do that. Do we have to give credit for Brentford, Brooke? I mean, they've beaten West Ham and Chelsea recently, haven't they? We got a draw there. Good point, then, maybe.
Yeah. We do have to give them credit because they have, but they weren't like great against us. They weren't amazing. Eriksen was everything. I still feel like that whole game. I was thinking, well, the whole second half. We shouldn't talk about the first half, but the second half, I was thinking we can get something, we can nick something. They weren't spectacular, and they weren't taking their chances, and I just thought we can get something. But I think, I don't know. I keep thinking back to home to Brighton 2019, Eriksen with like the 90th minute winner. We don't have that, and I think if we just had that, we would have been okay.
HG's back in the house.
Kane.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's the evening of terrible internet, I think. That's the problem. Okay. I mean, the reality is every team that's not ambitious, i.e. the sort of lower half of the table, is going to set up that way against us, aren't they? Brooke, I'll stick with you on this. And we've got to find a way to break it down, or we're going to throw a lot more points away before the season's over. Yeah,
totally. We've been found out. And I mean, from the last 2 games, anybody can see that our manager doesn't like to change, won't tweak the system to affect change. And I can't help but think that the players know it and see it and feel it, And maybe that's why we saw what we saw. But I don't know. It's frustrating because I think we're just missing a few really important pieces, and we could be doing so much better. Bring back Eriksen.
Well, yeah, I'd love Eriksen back. We will come on to touch transfers in a little bit. On the pod this weekend, Seb suggested Conte should try something like when Danny Rose was given his debut in the North London derby. We got anyone who could fulfill a right back job, HG?
Right back. I mean, I know that Lavinia is probably the most experienced because he's 21, 22, ex-Chelsea, so he obviously knows a Chelsea. Even if he's a Chelsea reject, they know how to make a right back. So maybe he would be an option. But yeah, if you're looking for someone to come into the team and actually do something different, then I wouldn't be looking at a right back. I'd be looking at someone like Alfie Devine, personally. But I mean, Alfie Devine's not even 18 yet. But I think he's that type of player. Like you look at Danny Rose that night, he was a left-footed player playing right midfield. If he hadn't have done the goal that he did, he was taken off at half-time, and probably wisely so, let's be honest. But that goal made him, Spurs fans, kind of what he was. But yeah, if we're going to do something, off the bench, like Scarlett's not it. The kid's, he's so young. Divine is even younger. So where are you looking? I know there's another youth kid called Dermy Lusala, who's maybe 18, who's also highly rated as a right back, but I think he's more of a traditional one rather than a wing back. To me,
I think Lavinia would be a good shout, actually.
But none of us have seen him play, really.
I saw him play for I watched an under-21s game. He played under-23s. He played really well.
Yeah. I mean, could he
Really
do worse than Royal, as Elena says? No, probably not. Let's be honest.
He's quite quick. He's quite quick and he gets forward. And I think that's ultimately what frustrates everyone with Royal, isn't it? And he put a couple of good balls over, actually, when I saw him play.
We need attacking thrust.
Yeah,
we do.
I think he'd give you more of that than Royal does currently. So, worth a punt maybe against Burnley.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully by then it won't. I mean, like, you just...
They'll all matter. They'll all matter. It's going down to the wire, this is. To the wire.
Kane said today, didn't he, that we need to win all 5 games and it was like a Twitter pylon as the sort of like, oh yeah, duh. If we'd done that.
Nice if you turned up then, Harry,
Thanks,
really. For all of it.
No. Slightly odd.
Thing. Including Liverpool. So let's just go there and get 3 points. Why not? Let's do it. I'm in.
I think we can get a result. I think we can get a result at Liverpool. I think was it UHG said we've never been tonked there. We've never, even the last couple of games we've played up there, we've been good. We might come away just marginally losing the game, but we've played.
I wouldn't say we've been good, but we've come away marginally losing the game. And there was a couple of games where Liverpool just dominated, but they only won by 1 goal right at the end. Look, Liverpool are the type of team that if our passing is on point, we can hurt them. Absolutely. The goal I think that Son scored there last year was pretty much route 1, came from next to nothing, but suddenly it was 1-1 when we're back in the game. Anything's possible with Spurs. I mean, that's just it. Like we go and beat Liverpool, and then 5 days later we go and beat Arsenal, and then we lose to Burnley. That's what Spurs do.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. And so, we'll probably go into the final game at Norwich against a team that's already relegated, knowing that 3 points will get us what we want, right? And does anyone really think Spurs will go and do that?
No, because the pressure will be completely off Norwich, and they'll just, they'll just go for it, won't they?
Maybe.
So I mean, but look, last summer United had recruited Varane, Sancho, and Ronaldo. Chelsea bought Lukaku. And let's face it, Liverpool and City are streets ahead. Did anyone really see us competing for 4th this season when we appointed Nuno Espirito Santo in the summer? Seems like a long time ago now. Brooke, did you think we would be in a top 4 race this season?
No, no. But I think it's kind of the same when you get any new manager in. You're like, oh, we need X amount of time to get our stuff together, get some players that he wants in, really build his team. So no, I didn't expect 4th, but I also didn't expect what we saw. So no, I didn't.
I agree. Becky, did you think 4th was realistic when Nuno was at the helm?
No, not at all. Even after the City game, I thought that was just, with everything going on behind the scenes and all the Kane business, that was just, it was a great match, don't get me wrong, but it was not necessarily something we were going to build on. I think it's such a shame. I've read this a lot this week that, we're all being like, oh God, but we're making such a fuss because we aren't going to get 4th. I think because we played so well for that period in the middle of the season that we really thought it was really possible, and there was talk about getting 3rd, and then the wheels fell off again. And it's just such a shame because there was this real momentum that we thought we were building, and it was the Spurs that we like to see. But going back to your question, no, when Nuno was there, I think, everything he had structure-wise, formation, the training system, it all just wasn't going to work out. And it's because they took about 4 years to appoint him.
I mean, I think this is a good point from Adrian. Conte has improved us. We're 5th and virtually guaranteed European football, and Europa League more likely, at least. Besides, if we qualify for the Champions League, we'll end up in the UEFA Cup, Europa League, which is like possibly slightly cynical way of looking at it, because we might go out and sign 3 or 4 world-class players in the summer. You don't know. But I suppose the point is, I was really worried we were going to finish like 10th halfway through this season. And let's be fair, we've lost it. Spurs fans love a bit of an overreaction. We've lost a game and we've drawn a game. We're still in control, complete control of our own destiny. So you need to be slightly realistic about it and not quite so reactionary. Do you not, HG?
Yeah, look, if you just said to me, 6 weeks ago that we'd be in this position, I'd be like, great. But the thing is, if you said to me 10 days ago we'd be in this position, I'd have punched you, right? I mean, that's not what that's the issue. It's not necessarily reactionary. It's just we understood where we were and the opportunity that we had. Like, it's only 9 days ago we sat there thinking if we beat Brighton at home, we're 6 points ahead of that lot. 6 points. And 9 days later, we're 2 points behind them. And basically hoping that, yes, it's still in our hands, but 6 points ahead. Would Arsenal have really got the results they needed? I'm not so sure they would have. It was a massive, massive missed opportunity. And yeah, look, obviously, we lose, and then 2 hours later, Arsenal lose, and you think, okay, you've dodged a bullet. But a lot of people were right in thinking, actually, no, it just makes the fact that we lost even worse because Arsenal managed to turn it around. Yes, they got help in both games. I've no doubt about that. But the point is, they got the results they needed because they were creating. They're creating chances, and we're not. You have to create stuff.
It's simple math, isn't it, HG?
Well, yeah, not with the crosses business, but it's yeah. I think that is the frustrating part. Like, I understand that lots of Spurs fans are happy when we win and sad when we lose. Like, I get that. I think that's every single football fan on the planet. But when you knew that we had a massive opportunity to really make life difficult. And we didn't, and that's taking nothing away from Brighton, who deserved to win the game. But I just feel like most of the season, Spurs are we're kind of like Wolves, but we've got much better strikers, so we win more games than they do. But if you take those 2 games against Wolves, Wolves battered us at Molineux, and we fluked a 1-0 win, and then they beat us quite comfortably at Spurs. And I don't look at the Wolves team and think, wow, what an amazing team. But that's because they don't have strikers. If they had Kane, if they had Son, they would be battling for 4th and probably well up there, not just battling for it. So I feel like, if anything, Kane and Son and the fact that they're so good has papered over the fact that the rest of it really isn't that good. We've won a lot of games with late goals. We've won a lot of games somewhat flukily because we've taken more of the chances. I mean, that's not flukes, but it's still, when other teams are creating and they're not scoring, like, you
just
have
means
to
we've
worry
got better
about
forwards,
that.
doesn't it?
Possibly. And we've got a better goalkeeper because Lloris has saved us a couple of times too. But overall, like, it's questionable. Are we really that good under the surface? Right now, I don't think we are.
I mean, is it worse because Arsenal have gone out and beaten Chelsea, Man United, and are yet to face a depleted West Ham? I mean, it kind of rubs salt in the wounds. When you saw their fixture list, you thought that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I knew when everybody was being very positive and we're like, sure, they've got harder fixtures, and I look at every game like a one-off, and anything can happen in a one-off, and I never believed that it would be as cut and dry as they have a harder run in. So I'm not really surprised that we are where we are, because things were just going too well. But I do think Chelsea didn't play their best team to begin with. They really didn't. It really feels like they didn't care. They didn't care enough to put out a team. And, Arsenal capitalized.
I mean, they're not that far ahead, to be honest, Chelsea, if they throw many more games. But, I suppose that's a different story. Will our scenario this weekend, Becky, where you're at the game and I'm at the game, be helped? Our lucky charms are back. Be helped by the fact that Leicester's priority will be all about Jose Mourinho in the semi-final of the competition we got ourselves knocked out of.
Yeah, which Rodgers didn't know what it was when they fell into it, did he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, I think Leicester is similar to West Ham. When West Ham, the team they put out against Chelsea on Sunday, there are other priorities, and hopefully that comes through for us, because it did when we played West Ham. You could tell. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Good news, Adrian. Shan is not going for the week unless something changes dramatically. But then, to be fair, she hasn't been to the last 2 games either, so I can't really blame her. I'm afraid the curse is gone. Worst case scenario: Chelsea, Goons, and West Ham are all in the Champions League, and we're in the Europa League next season. HG.
Yeah, I don't live in London, so that doesn't bother me quite as much as it might do those that do. I've got one Arsenal fan at work, and he talks to me about football in general. He's like, I like Arsenal, but he's never going to rub my nose in it. Yeah, like obviously no one wants to see it, but this is Spurs. We should expect it. We should be looking. I mean, like not expect it, but we should be thinking this is what's going to happen because we're Spurs. If it doesn't, then great. But we, I don't think West Ham are going to win the Europa League. I have to say that. I think even if they get past Frankfurt, I think Leipzig are too good for them. They are a very good side, Leipzig. However, it's they have a very good chance. You have to say that they do have a good chance. As for Arsenal, it's still either Arsenal or Spurs. I mean, if you think of it like this, if we get 4th and West Ham win, then it's Arsenal that have to watch Chelsea, West Ham, and Arsenal in the Champions League. So I guess we just have to be as positive as Spurs fans can be.
There's remaining fixtures. It's
Can I talk about this? Like, is the Arsenal game against West Ham Monday night? It is, isn't it?
I think so.
So if to me, it's all about who plays first. There's a massive impact.
No, it's after the Spurs game, I think, because I remember thinking, that we'd watch it in the ground afterwards. I'm sure it's 4:30 kickoff on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. So we still play first, though, right?
Yeah, we play at 2:00. Yeah.
So like if we play before the Arsenal the next one, and then Liverpool Leeds, I think we play first. Obviously, the Arsenal game is at the same time, but I think the Burnley game we play first because it's the Newcastle one that's Monday night. So like Spurs get people make fun of Spurs because all we can do is put the pressure on. Well, now's the chance. Like if we're asking Arsenal to actually go out there and get victories, like you never know. Let's say that we keep it 2 points behind, right? And then we beat the Goons in the North London derby. So we're 1 point ahead. And then we go and beat Burnley. Suddenly, the Goons will have to get something, probably a win at Newcastle, to have any chance of finishing 4th. That's the type of thing that I'm dreaming of. But the way the season's going, anything could happen. That could happen. So we just have to take care of our own business. We really do. And again, we've got 3 home games. We have that advantage too.
Yeah.
I still think there's room for some flip-flopping. There's twists and turns to come, I think.
Oh, look, definitely. When you look at those fixtures, so if I was to predict them, I'd say we'll beat Leicester, we'll lose to Liverpool, we'll beat Arsenal, we'll beat Burnley, and we'll beat Norwich. If I was being optimistic, wildly optimistic, we should. Arsenal are gonna.
But if we do that, then we're 4th, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
all we need to concentrate. I think you're probably right. West Ham, Arsenal, West Ham, difficult, but I think I favour a win for Arsenal. Leeds, they'll knock them off easily. I've said they're going to lose to us. Newcastle is the one I think they'll really struggle with. I think that's a tough game right now. And Everton, they'll beat comfortably. So, yeah. So what do I see them getting? Maybe it's going to be very tight. A point in it, 2 points in it, maybe. It's going to be incredibly tight. And look, at least we're playing for something at the end of a season. It's not a trophy, but it's something.
Not this at least business.
Well, no, because I didn't expect anything. Look, when we were at peak Nuno, right, and we were about 10th, and we just lost a load of games. I didn't expect anything out of this season.
No, I mean, I get that, but that doesn't mean I can go back and be like, well, in the 90s we were rubbish, and at least we're not rubbish anymore. Like, how far do you go back? Like, take advantage of the situation in front of you. That's what good teams do. I want to see that. I don't want to sit there and think, well, at least I've got a nice cushion to sit on in the stadium. Don't care.
I worry we're not very good, HG. That's the problem. You said it yourself. We're not as good as we've flattered ourselves to be.
I think we're a good side with exceptional strikers. That's what we are, and that's why we have the chance that we have. We've got an exceptional manager. I do think that too. But take that away, are Arsenal a better team than Spurs? They seem to play like one. They seem to create chances and know what they're doing, even if their individual players may not be better. They have an idea at least, and
they got Odegaard, haven't they? And he's made a huge difference to them.
Yeah,
huge difference.
Yeah, and they're without Tierney, who makes a massive difference for them, and they're without. I mean, Lacazette's not been playing because he got COVID, I think. Nketiah's come in, but Nketiah's come in and scored, right?
Yeah,
so like that's the thing. Like if Lacazette didn't get COVID, he'd be starting, and they'd probably still be losing.
Would be happy days, yeah.
So it's I mean, Brooke's right. Anything can happen, but it is all about Spurs. I don't really want to be thinking about anything else. We need to go out there and do something.
And that's the real fear about Spurs right now is, I mean, I didn't fathom the drop off between previous games and the last two. It's been odd to me. And it's a bit like now we're a bit like other teams where you don't know which one's going to show up.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, the good news is Spurs Twitter account's got some great speech for the first Skywalker offer 25% of full kit. Spider-Man.
And the thing about these is any of those are likely. They could have tweeted any of those things to cheer us up. They were lucky. They were lucky last Monday that Emma wore the Spurs top, didn't she, in the Stuttgart, because they had nothing to put out on Monday because we lost.
Nothing.
That helped.
Yeah. They can always fall back on the recycling and having the greenest club in the Premier League. That's the favourite at the moment. With the world going to shit, and with our Premier League performance going to shit, it's good to know that we recycle all the shit. I don't know.
Yeah, we are only a couple of weeks away from Lucas Day. I think it's May the 7th, which is the day we play Liverpool, which is great. So we can't even enjoy that because all the Liverpool fans will be like, and what happened in the final? But So it's a time of year that we don't have to go too far back to have some really, really good memories. But I don't. I want to make them. I don't want to celebrate them. It's like the whole Poch loving, the whole Eriksen loving. Like, I get it. But can we have some Yo loving? Because I loved him too. Like, let's just make sure that this time next year we're talking about a fantastic Mullering of Brendan Rodgers and his useless band of mercenaries.
We really hope we're talking about that on Monday night, because obviously I work with Leicester fans. Might get one of them on the show on Friday for a laugh. But it'll be hell in my office next week otherwise. Good job it's a bank holiday. Very happy about that. Let's move on and stop talking about Spurs drawing at Brentford. Let's talk about this man. Pochettino's had the champagne out as news broke that he's getting the sack. Poch winning the league in PSG. 2 trophies in 2 years. He's got the trophy monkey off his back, hasn't he?
Yes, definitely.
But the good news is his replacement has already been lined up, apparently.
He's got his arms aren't folded. That's the wrong picture. His arms should be folded.
He looks a bit too happy.
He does look a bit too happy. I don't think I ever saw him that happy at Spurs.
In the back of that Nuno picture, it looked like Saint and Greavesy.
In the back of what? Sorry,
the Nuno picture. He's like Saint Greavesy. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Yeah, there you go.
Apparently, before the Messi goal on Saturday, some of the supporters left the ground to celebrate outside the ground because they couldn't bear celebrating winning a title inside their own ground because they didn't like what they were seeing. And I just think how we'd love to be have a tiny portion of that kind of fantastic nature and the way they treated Poch is awful, really.
It really is. But would we expect anything different from PSG? I mean, that's how they treat all their managers, isn't it? HG, why are they so anti-Pochettino? I mean, help me out here. You're closer to continental matters than I am. What is it about Poch they don't like? I don't really understand. He's won the league. That's no worse than anyone's done. He still hasn't won the Champions League, but that's no worse than anyone's done either.
No, I mean, like this is it. Every PSG manager is basically rated on what they do in the Champions League, or how well they get their players playing. They haven't really done that under Pochettino, but I mean, Pochettino is not going to get Messi and Neymar and Mbappe doing a high press. So, like, however Pochettino wants to play the game, PSG probably won't have that. But I don't know. But PSG are obviously a weird bunch because it's a pretty new club anyway. It's only like 50 years old.
Yeah.
They've come in and done pretty well in the French league, and then they got all the money, so now they win everything basically in France. Yeah, I guess for them, like if you know you're going to win the title or you expect to win the title, it's how you go about it that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, we have these weird conversations with Spurs fans thinking like, would you take a league title if we played boring football and won 1-0 every game? And there are lots of Spurs fans that would say, no, I don't want that.
Well, that's why we employed Mourinho, wasn't it?
A little bit. And so it's just this idea that like if PSG really, they can go out there and win games 3-4-1 playing badly in France. They really can. The Champions League comes down to it. Last year, they did all right. I think they got to the semis under Poch. This year, who was it who knocked them out? I don't know. I can't remember. But obviously, they didn't do very well. But in my head, PSG managers are usually like very, very famous names. And yet, when I was looking at the list of managers today, it's only really Ancelotti that's done a great deal. Tuchel has won the Champions League after he left, but Laurent Blanc for a while, and then it's just they struggle to attract. Like they can get players, people that will go there for loads of money, but the manager to me has always been the key aspect of any success. I don't think anyone can look at Pochettino and say that he's the major aspect for their league title this season. So it's an interesting.
I'm not being funny. I could manage that team to a league title. The amount of talent they've got and the state of the French league. It's not hard, is it? It really isn't. Maybe I'm doing it a disservice, but it's incredible, really. Dave with another classic tweet. I mean, the good news is Poch has got the trophy monkey off his back, so he's ready to come back to Spurs now, right? I mean, because apparently Conte is going the other way to PSG at the end of the season. What do you make of these rumours, Brooke?
I think it's a bunch of nonsense. I was watching what's his name? Alistair Gold, who kind of said, it's his representatives have said that, he's made no contact with PSG, but he did kind of say if it's out there, there's probably something to it, but it's probably more along the lines of kind of what he did when he was really upset and made some strange comments that made everybody thought he was going to leave, but it kind of kicked the team into gear. And I think he's hoping for a reaction from Dear Levy and saying, hey, you could lose me, back me, love me.
Yeah, need me, want me, hug me. I mean, the problem is with Conte, he's just threatened to leave one too many times, doesn't he? He's like the Italian who cried wolf, Becky.
And he's not come out once and said, no, it's not true, or I'm not going to leave. And that's, a few people I think it was Paul O'Keefe said on Twitter, it's getting on his nerves now that he doesn't just turn around and say, I'm here to the end of next season, and this is what you're going to get from me. And he did it similarly into Milan when he didn't win the league. He sort of said, I'm going to leave, you need to back me, and then they backed him, and then they won the league. So there may be that reverse psychology to it, but people within the club, it's not good. Sky love it. They love the fact that it's causing all of this, and we're in the run-in, and it's just unsettling. And I just thought you saw it a little bit in the players on Saturday. There's never bad news is never good for anybody, whether it's true or not. And it's so hard now to block it out. You know, they're on social media and they watch TV, and it's so hard for them to not be there. And you know, for whatever reason, it was leaked, whether there is any truth to it or not. Conte hasn't turned around and said, no, it's rubbish.
Yeah, totally agree. And you know, it's hard to block out, and it's really easy to start. People just say the most random crap, and it just takes off like a firestorm. I just think everybody just gets a bit too crazy with that stuff. I mean, I don't know. I do think it affects the players, though, which I think we've seen.
This is the thing. Like, whenever we're doing okay, we get on settlement. If that's a word.
Started with Doherty.
You know what I mean? It just seems to me that the media's got a bit of an agenda against Spurs, but equally Conte could shut it all down and just doesn't. And that's a real problem. It's a real problem. Becky,
he's probably seen Levy's last 20 years and thought, if you're going to get Levy to do something, you probably need to be a bit dramatic.
Which I think is possibly why it's scaring the Spurs fans, because it's not worked before. Jose said a similar thing, and it's not worked. So, you know, if it works, and great. But I think there's quite a few people that think it's not going to make any difference.
Do you think he's here next season then, Becky? Yeah, just a yes or no. What do we think?
I'll say yes, tentatively.
Yes, tentatively. HG, can you top a tentative yes?
Yes.
Same.
Like honestly, I don't think, despite having the millions that PSG do, I don't think PSG is the type of job that Conte wants. I don't. Like, I understand that, you know, it's, you know, free trophies, all the rest of it, you know, trophy just for showing up. But like, that doesn't seem to be Conte's MO. Like, I think he would prefer to be challenged every week and fail than to just show up, mail it in, and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, he'll have some decent players, but he won't have Mbappe. So, like, yeah, I expect PSG to win it next year, but they're going to have to try and find a replacement, which there don't seem to be many great strikers going about now. It looks like Haaland's going to City. So, yeah, look, I don't know. Like, PSG are obviously, if you compare them and Spurs, you might think, okay, PSG is the better job because you probably get paid more and you don't have to do anything really to succeed. But given the way Conte is as a person, the way he was as a player, I don't know. Like, I almost feel like if he leaves Spurs, it's because he wants a break. I don't think it would be to go to PSG, and I just don't see him wanting a break.
Well, Brooke, you have the final say on it. Will Conte be there next season?
Yes. I totally believe he'll be there next season, and mainly just because, I mean, when people say a lot that he does threaten to leave if he doesn't get what he wants, but when he threatened Milan, he had already won the league, and I think I think Spurs is. When he first got here, there was that saying that if anybody can fix Spurs, it's Conte, but if anybody can break Conte, it's Spurs. And right. I don't think he's broken yet. I think he's still. And I just read today that Alistair Gold put on Twitter that he's confirmed that he's still committed, and he will be here. I think Levy will back him in the best way Levy knows how, which is the
cheapest way
with a knife.
Cheapest way.
Yeah.
Cheapest way.
Can I just talk about this quote that Adrian's put up? Right, if Conte said this, then I believe you, Andrew. I really do. But to me, I always look at these things and I think, okay, but what does that actually mean, right? Like, I'm committed to the club for another year means I signed a contract that means I'm going to be paid for the next 12 months. And the club wanted it means, yeah, because if they didn't say yes, they were stuck with Nuno or Ryan Mason for the next 6 months. Yeah. So, of course, they wanted it. They wanted you. They didn't necessarily want the situation. Yeah, because it was good to know each other. Sure, maybe Levy can save a bit of money because he won't have to sack Conte, for an extra 2 years or whatever. But no, like, to me, Conte wanted back into football. Spurs were pretty desperate and were willing to give him whatever he wanted. And Paratici was like, please, per favore. Like, he just wanted it to happen. And so, look, great. And we're all happy that Conte's in charge. We are. But quotes like that. Like, I mean, I believe it. I believe that he said that, but what does he really mean by that? I'm always looking for some kind
Just
of hidden
means I've
meaning.
got 12 months on a contract left.
No,
Watch
he's
this
not going
space.
anywhere. And dear PSG, have you seen his European record?
It's true.
Please go find somebody else.
It is dire. His European record's crap. I
Great.
understand why they'd be looking at anyone other than Zinedine Zidane, if I'm being really honest.
Right.
Yeah, that is the obvious call. It really is.
I have a question though about Conte. If we're happy for Conte to have his week-long training sessions where we obviously do much better, do we really want to be in Europe where we'll have 2 games a week?
I think Daniel Levy wants the cash registers to ring, so I would imagine that we're absolutely desperate for Champions League. And,
how do you think we would fare?
It depends how you sign in the summer. Look, the reality is, I think on Premier League form since Conte got here, we're third. It's not that bad. If you stick a couple of really good fullbacks in that system, and perhaps a centre back, even better. If you add a midfielder, it gets better. If you add a reserve striker, it gets even better. And that's the way I look at it. We're going to make big moves in the window. I'm quite sure Paratici's working on it already, and I'm quite sure there'll be at least 5 ins and lots of outs. There's lots of players there he doesn't rate, so the colour's only just begun. Is the way I see it, and how we set up next season. If Conte's there with a full pre-season and players he absolutely wants, I'd be very confident that we can do something. But it's all ifs, buts, and maybes until we see what they do.
Like I think Brooks' point was more about, like, obviously the same 11 can't play every game, like twice a week, and with European football, like considering what we saw last year, where the club were after Pau Torres and they were after Jules Koundé, and both of them came out and said we want Champions League football. Like, for that reason alone, we need it, because it just means that we're going to have a bigger pool to pick from more than anything else. And even if the money from being in the Champions League works out at what, 25, 30 million, like guaranteed, because you've got your group stage this and your TV pool that and whatever. If we get there and Levy says, right, that money's yours, right, it's an extra 30 million to whatever you want to do. Obviously, we still have to find the money for Romero and for Kulusevski. Those will happen in the summer. So you do think that we will be looking to deepen the squad and to have, instead of 14 players that Conte trusts, to have 19 players.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to sell anyone that Conte wants to keep at the club. So if we can get 5 people in, we've got 19 players, and Conte figures out what you really need to do to rotate. Because the funny thing with Conte is that even when he won the league with Inter, he didn't play the same 11 every game in the league. So he does rotate, but he hasn't been able to figure out how to do that for European football. I think when they got to the Europa League final, it's because they got knocked out of the Champions League and ended up dropping down. So there is that question, but a lot of it depends on the draw. I mean, Spurs tend to get difficult draws in the Champions League, and when we do all right. And when we get a crappy group, like we did when we were really good that season, we don't do as well. But
Spurs logic, right?
Yeah, the better the opponent, the better we seem to play. Seems to be a fair thing with Spurs, isn't it?
And it's like that in the league as well, apart from Chelsea.
I do think that ultimately we've got to deepen the squad in the transfer window, and like you say, players like Pau Torres. I mean, he'd be an absolute dream. Can you imagine him and Romero in the same defense? Whoa.
Yeah, and we should have a really good. I mean, the first 11, I expect us to have a really good first 11. There are rumours that Hakimi wants out of PSG, right? I mean, that would be the dream right wing back signing, because obviously Conte knows him and he'll know Conte. And the way that Hakimi's going, was it 2 years at Dortmund, 1 year at Inter, now he's at PSG. He changes clubs that often anyway, that he might just say to Spurs, you know what? Yeah, I'm only signing a 2-year deal. I mean, obviously that wouldn't suit Spurs at all. But you just think that if Conte has that pull to get players that have played for him and know him, that are willing to, even if it is as a last contract swan song, that can only benefit Spurs. The manager's going to be a massive pull for players, because they know that he's won things. As much as Spurs are Spurs, you just never know.
Few birthdays. Ali Dick, born in 1965, 57 today. Wigan made his debut age 16. 16 and 301 days old versus Manchester City in 1982. So Dave will definitely remember that. Played 17 league games and scored 2 goals. Left Spurs for Ajax in 1996. Of course, Kulusevski is 22 today. Looks about 50. No, he looks a lot older than 22.
He's aged this season.
Spurs will age you. That's what I'm really 30. I just look like this. Tomorrow we've got HG, your favourite player, Dean Austin.
Is it his birthday tomorrow?
It's his birthday tomorrow. He's 52 years old. There you go.
I did. 1992. Dean Austin was my favourite player at Spurs. It's true.
6 years at the club. I didn't realise he was there for that long, to be honest.
He was injured for a fair chunk of it. But that first season, he and Edinburgh were the fullbacks. That was my first season as a season ticket holder. And Dean Austin wore Patrick boots. I mean, I bought Patrick boots because Dean Austin wore them.
Yeah.
Patrick was not a brand that anyone wanted. Exactly.
No one wanted that.
No, but I wanted them because Dean Austin had them, and I like Dean Austin. I mean, it's sad, but it is absolutely true.
Well, I won't be wearing them tomorrow when I make my comeback on the old 11-a-side pitch. Also tomorrow, 49 years old, Chris Perry. Another one Dave will definitely be in tune with. In the glory years of 99 to 2003, 146 games, 4 goals. Not sure he was anyone's favourite player, if I'm really honest. There you go. Would have been 76 today. Ralph Coates, sadly passed away in 2010, scored the winning goal in the 1973 League Cup final. And we've got a treat for you today. And on this day, this was 1987. On this day, Spurs 3, Oxford 1. Enjoy.
Cross coming in, but off again there. Maybe Spurs now. It's 4 against 3 now for Tottenham. And Holland's going through on his own. Oh, it's in, a superb goal by Hollow. He salutes the crowd. He gets applause from his manager on the bench and from the Tottenham fans as well. A moment of true mastery.
Yeah, Glenn Hoddle's last goal for Spurs in his penultimate appearance on this day in 1987. His last home game, by the way, was a 4-0 win over Man United on the 4th of May. So that's interesting. Did you enjoy that, HG? Do you remember that one?
I did. Oh, well, weirdly enough, my first ever Spurs game was a week after that goal. So I saw us get beat 2-0 at Forest as a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old. And then, only later did I realise that goal that I've seen plenty of times over the years was only a week before it. But brilliant player. Harlow boy, Glenn Hoddle. So I've got to love him just for that, really. What a player.
What a player indeed. God, I believe, as he is known as to the Spurs faithful. Yeah. So there you go. Well, who's your favourite? Do you remember much about Hoddle, Becky?
No.
Time, a bit before?
Yeah. 1990s, my first season. Lineker and Gaza and...
same as me. Same as me. Right, what else have I got for you? Transfers. HG, apparently, we're trying to sign Antonian Barak this season. Barak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Barak, yeah.
Tell us about him.
He's a Czech midfielder. I think he plays in Italy for Verona. I watched him play in the Euros. Was it really last summer? Yeah. I watched him play in the Euros last summer for the Czechs. He's about 6'4", but he plays like Eriksen. So it's a bit odd. There were definite Yarmolenko comparisons physically, but he's not a Yarmolenko style player. He's much more wants to be central, wants to put the through balls in. No thanks. Shortly, I'm sure he does well in Italy, but no, I'd like to look a little bit higher than that.
Look, well, ladies, you heard of Barak? No, not just me. Then that's good. Only HG. That's why you're here, HG, to provide the European flavour.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, as a teacher, I get lots of time to watch the Euros, so it was perfect. But
you mentioned being a teacher, possibly more than Steve Diver mentions that he's on a keto diet.
To be fair, I only mention it because I
There
get
he
lots of
is,
time off.
bless him.
Oh, Steve.
Steve, never changed, Steve. Never changed. Samuel Adams, though, what a beer. Beautiful beer that is. Brooke, do you miss the American beer? You know, here?
Loaded
that
question.
I thought that
Oh,
might
no.
be your answer.
Oh no. Beavertown and Brewdog have changed my life. You know.
Really? Beavertown's
for sure.
decent. Yeah, it's nice. It's really
Yeah,
good.
for sure.
What do you miss about America, Brooke, if I can ask?
Road trips. You know, kicking my feet up on the dash, cruise control.
You
Type of
don't
thing.
you don't want to drive to North Wales? You know, Scotland is nice for 2 weeks every summer.
No.
Long way though.
Long way. Not
No.
to an American, it isn't cooler.
No,
Come
but
on,
it
man.
is. No, but
in
it
Europe,
is.
train journeys are nice. Train journeys are nice in Europe, and you know you can drink on transportation, and it's good. It's nice. Watch the scenery roll by. What?
Just like I've got to pick HG up. So yeah, okay. Distance wise, getting to Scotland is not far, right? But if I'm in America, if I want to drive from I don't know San Francisco to LA or to Vegas or whatever, it's a long straight road. I can just chill out. Like all I've got to worry about is my Cheetos running out.
That's what I'm saying.
And my
That's the good
Gatorade.
stuff. That's
So
the
that's
stuff,
it.
man.
Cheetos and
the good
Gatorade,
stuff.
and I'm sorted. Yeah, going to Scotland. Let's be honest. It's a bag of scampi fries, some iron brew, and a long-arsed way through a load of like long winding roads. That's not my idea of a road trip.
Yeah, but isn't that the point of a road trip? Like to me, a road trip is not let's see how far I can drive on a straight road. If that's what you want, drive to Norwich. There's a straight road that takes you out there. No, a road trip is about like seeing stuff on the way. As far as I'm concerned, maybe I'm the weird one. I don't know.
Well, to be fair, there are plenty of roads like that in the States. Pacific Coast Highway in California is one of the most beautiful drives in the world.
Yeah, but it's not straight, so Caller doesn't want to do it.
I've done it actually, and it is a beautiful road. Yeah,
it is.
But in the UK, I'm not being funny. If you tried driving to Wales, like through Snowdonia, it takes you about 4 hours.
I haven't driven to Northern Wales, but I have driven to Southern Wales from Kent.
Yeah, it's a disgrace. They should just build a motorway through the middle
when
of
I moved here, the advice was drive like everyone is trying to kill you, and that's how I live.
It's very good advice. Yeah, especially in London. Crikey. What are the transfer rumours we got there? Eriksen's already been talked about. We talked about that. I take it you'd all take Eriksen back, Becky. 100%. HG. No, probably not. You like to be
I'm laughing at Craig's comment. Sorry. Yeah, maybe, but I can't. I can't drive, so I'm not the best. I'm a terrible back seat, side seat, whatever.
Annoying.
No, but I'm an organizer. Absolutely, I want to see stuff.
No, it's annoying.
I remember, before I got married, we had to drive from Texas to Utah. It was about 20 hours. And the first day was 10 hours, and it took like 8.5 to leave Texas. And we saw some, ghost towns is giving it a good impression. I mean, these places are just rubble. Yeah, so road trip, brilliant. Home of garlic is in California. I've been there. Yeah, there's plenty of
home of
things.
garlic.
Yeah, I think it's called Gilroy. Gilroy, California is the home of garlic. You can buy garlic everything. Yeah.
You know, I'm from California, and I've never heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's north of LA.
It's not hard,
I think.
though. It's not.
But yeah.
That's okay. I'm from Northern California. I'm from the California that nobody thinks is California.
So we have this conversation after the show. We'll talk more Spurs.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're done with Spurs, really. I mean, my remaining question would be, will you come back, Brooke? Did you have a nice time this evening? And can we tempt you back onto the cheese room, really?
I mean, if you want to suffer a bit more, but I think that you guys like that as Spurs fans. I think you gotta like it a little bit if you keep coming back. So I'd love to. I had fun.
Absolutely. If you want to be a patron, check out the link that is scrolling at the bottom of the page. You too could get hold of some amazing merchandise. Look at these guys down under. Dave, we love you.
That's happy people right there.
How are you single, Dave? If all the ladies watching, Dave is single, and with that photo, he really
available.
shouldn't be.
Available.
Yeah.
Available now, just like all our Cheese Room merchandise. If you're a patron, it's exclusive for the patrons. There you go. Becky, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And I'll see you at the weekend. HG, once again from Austria.
See you next week.
I think I learned more from you about like your travels across the world today than I did about football. So that's
maybe there's a show in that. Probably not, but you never know.
Everyone's got a smile on the face. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you actually. Before we go, Becky, are we going to get top 4? Yes or no? I like a temperature check as we go through the season.
It's still in our hands, so yes.
Okay, Brooke.
Heck yeah, I'm in there. Let's do it.
HG.
No, because Conte's going to stick with the wing backs that we don't have, and that will be our downfall. So no, I don't think so.
And finally, for the Everton fan who's always in our chat, bless him.
Oh, Richo.
Are Everton going down? Yes.
Yeah,
that's what he does now.
Yeah.
I believe Dele Alli is going to have a resurgence and start ripping it up.
In the championship.
In the championship, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, bless.
He had 8 minutes. He had 8 minutes, I think, didn't he, yesterday? So slightly more than
He had a really nice pass. He did. I saw it.
Yeah.
He could be playing versus MK Dons next season.
That's right.
Let that sink in. Whose season tickets are a lot more reasonable than ours. I found out the other day. Ticket renewal at Spurs, £1,250. MK Dons, you can get hospitality for that. 2 tickets to hospitality for that for the season. Potentially watching Championship football. It's a good job I'm committed to the cause. Thanks from all of us. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you Friday for our 9 p.m. preview show. Until the next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you motherfucking Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.